I'm doing all the things, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. Hey, I'm Donnie Bovine, the CEO and founder of Success Champion Networking and author of Endless Stream of Referrals. This is Growth Mode, a podcast all about growing and scaling your business. Hanging out with me, as always, is Kevin Snow, the sales and automation tactician and genius. In this episode, we're really going to dive in how you find yourself doing all the things and nothing actually getting done.
So this is something that I struggled with all the time, and I still do from time to time. And I think it's part of my personality as a high C and not wanting to give up control. So I had these, and we talked about this before. I had these really detailed to-do lists broken down by categories, and there'd be days, especially when I was just launching Time on Target, that I'd click off a ton of stuff, and I'd be like, "Sweet, I got all this stuff done. I was so productive today," and that would go on for days and days and days, and but I wouldn't actually like have moved my business anywhere. I was getting things done, but I wasn't like getting new clients. I wasn't setting myself up for that next big jump or that next big pivot that was going to take me to the next level for my business. And I think this is an issue that business owners get caught in a lot. And I think even just salespeople in general get caught in this because they get all these things done and they're doing motions, but there's no forward movement.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. I mean, even early on in the business, I had it in my head that I couldn't afford to outsource, so I learned to do all the things. Like I can edit video, I can edit audio, I can freaking make graphics with the best of them. I mean, I can do all kinds of shit that truthfully I probably have no business actually knowing how to do. And for me, a lot of it was I felt like I really had to learn it and understand it before I could give it to somebody else properly. I also felt like nobody could do it as good as me. Nobody could create as good as I created. Nobody could build as good as I build. And, I think there was definitely some ego that played into my ability to let go of things and let people do what they're good at. And truthfully, Kevin's one of the first people that taught me how to properly get shit off my plate. And I just had to find somebody that was fucking better at something that I could do. And it started off with email automations and shit. And me breaking MailChimp several fucking times and finally finding Kevin to come in and be like, yeah, just don't touch shit. And I mean, inside of Entreport, the programming right now, he's literally got things that says, Donnie, don't touch this. And in Asana, it says, Donnie, don't touch. And it's because not that I couldn't go in and learn this stuff, but there's no reason for me to go in and learn the stuff and do it. And I think to Kevin's point, when you have all the knowledge and you're doing all the things, all these false wins happen and keep you from actually trying to do the things that will grow your business. And early in the business, I failed miserably because I stayed so far behind the scenes doing the stuff that was more fun than out prospecting, business development, and talking to people.
Yeah, I think a big part for me is you're going through the reasons why people do that. A big thing for me was the perfectionism, and I still have
I don't
this.
have that problem.
the but I for like building out automations and doing things like that, I'm like, well, I could give it to someone, they can do it, but then I'm gonna have to go in and fix it and do it anyway. So why even outsource it? So that is my inner demon that I always battle with and have to talk my way through when I give stuff to people. Even like our
Yeah, but the flip side of that is in not giving it away, you get so overloaded with work that even you miss shit.
yep.
So that's the problem with the perfectionist side of things is at some point nobody can handle all the
Yeah,
workload.
and that's exactly 100% correct. And that's really what started happening to me is like, oh, I didn't do this thing, and I do formatting issues and things wouldn't display right, or all just stupid little things that I just glossed over because I was trying to get all these big things done. So the little things just broke. And it is a learning process to be able to outsource this and to give up that control. And for me, I think a lot of my learning with it, and I'm still learning, it came through the military and getting beat up so many times by my senior officers about stopping doing the stuff. That's why I have NCOs, and that I had to trust them to go do the thing and then just verify that it gets done correctly and then refine and reteach. And so that was because I was like that in the military as a lieutenant. It's like, I'll just go do it. I'd go create a thing. And they'd be like, you have 15 soldiers in your section that aren't doing stuff because you're doing it all. I'm like, yeah, that sounds kind of dumb, doesn't it? so so yeah.
Yeah, but there's a good point in there, man. You've got to learn to give it to others. And as you said, that's a learned process. I mean, I go back to the first time I had somebody edit my podcast. I was like, "Here you go, it's all yours," and it came back as a fucking shit show because I gave them no expectations or
Yeah,
anything.
and I think for me, especially with the military, because I was the one who would have to brief the product, I was the one who was going to have to talk to the general or the colonel about it. I was the one that was going to get beat up. So I wanted that control. So if I was getting beat up, it was actually my fault. So, so
Well, even if you give it to somebody else, it's still your
yeah,
fault. You gave it to them.
exactly. This is true. So it was really figuring out what that balance for me was between keeping the control so I get to have that quality assurance, but then also giving the opportunity to that other person to do the thing. And the thing that people I don't think realize, that when they outsource stuff, especially if it's someone who's actually on your team and it's an employee, it's an opportunity for you to develop that individual into something better. Giving those tasks that you have traditionally said, oh my God, only I can do this right, and giving it over to someone else now allows them to be better at their job and be more valuable to you.
Yeah, dude, I love that because even like with this podcast, unfortunately, Tatiana, who did all the audio and video work for us, was in Russia, and she got shut down access to be able to do any work to help us out. So we've brought on a new guy, Samuel, that's helping us out, and we were so used to the process of Tatiana that I hadn't thought about how do I teach somebody else into our system. So he's got to figure it out now, but there was a couple, of trial and errors of figuring out how to bring this stuff in. But this goes back to, I think, you've got to document your processes so somebody else can slip into it if something like Russia happens, you know, and be able to move forward. And I think that's part of the struggle with people trying to get things off their plate is they don't understand their own process. They've just done it. So therefore they don't know how to give it to somebody else. I mean, it's hard to document your own
Yeah,
stuff.
it's interesting. And I noticed this for me. I'm working on a really big project with one of my other clients. Yeah, don't tell Donnie. He likes to think he's the only one. Um,
I am.
but it's an in-depth process, and there's going to be a lot of manual steps that go into it until some additional features roll out inside of Entreport. So this time I caught myself, I was actually like creating the process as I was building all the stuff, and I was writing down, oh, we have to do
Mm.
this here. And I was actually documenting stuff before I went in to build the actual automations. I'm like, oh, we have to do this, and I got to make sure this touches, and here's where this interacts. And I was documenting as I went. So I'm like, and I literally one day I stopped. I just stopped doing what I was doing. I'm like, I've never done it this way before. I'm like, oh, this is new. And I looked at it like, oh, this is actually kind of smart, because I'm now not having to go back after I build stuff and figure out why it doesn't work. Because I've actually created all the links on a piece of paper that I can follow, as opposed to just having it in my head.
No, dude, that's actually really smart, Kevin.
Yeah.
You'll never hear me say that shit again. But the trick with it all is I think we all get caught up in doing this stuff most times because it's a distraction from something else. We convince ourselves. Like I had, Kevin and I had a client the other day that was so excited that somebody, looked at their LinkedIn profile. They didn't connect, they didn't respond, but they looked at their LinkedIn profile, and that became like this massive win for them. And we had to get that person to explain to us how somebody looking at your profile was a win. And finally had to say, hey, if you had a salesperson and they came to you and said, somebody looked at their profile, that's a win, what would you tell them? And they were like, get out there and freaking sell something. So I think we often are distracting ourselves with things that feel like wins, and that's how we get caught up in doing all the things. Like it's like, oh my god, my email automation worked. That's my major win. But I've had no prospect conversations, I've had no sales conversations. They're behind the scenes things. They're good, but they're not building your business. They are an afterthought of the things you need to do to actually, because if even if that email automation works, if you got nobody to send it to or nobody new coming in the system, nobody's gonna ever fucking see the damn thing.
Yep.
So I think we trade quite often, these micro wins that really don't mean anything to displace doing the things that we really should be doing.
I do have to say though that I get the emails from LinkedIn on how many people have looked at your profile, and it does kind of make me smile when it's a bigger number than I've had before.
Now I'm curious. This is pissing contest for me. Your last email, how many viewed your profile?
201. Yeah, I know yours.
See, this is why I love doing this shit. 972 is my last one. So I'm almost broke 1,000
Yeah,
views.
that's where my goal is. I want 1,000. I want that number to come across with 4 digits. But yep. I'm just now restarting my social media and getting back and posting regularly
for the 279th time.
That's not a lie. So it'll go up, and then I'll get bored with it, or I'll get pissed off because it's taking me so much time, and I'll stop. So I look at it and I smile. I'm like, yes, I got a big number, but it's not. I don't think I look at it like the big win.
For me, I like to see the measurement of views, right?
Yep.
I think there's some validation in there that you're doing a lot of the right things, but there has to be some sort of ideal behind, okay, I've had 972 freaking wins. What's the result of that many views, right? What's that leading to? I mean, cool, people are looking at you, but is that turning into revenue?
Yeah, and
I think that's.
I think it's one of the basic. Yeah, totally.
Part.
I think it's one of the basic metrics for your reach and your exposure, and is your brand awareness getting people to know who you are and look at your stuff. Yes, awesome. But now you're exactly right. There has to be that next metric. That you're looking at that shows that those people that are looking at you are staying around and they're doing something else.
For sure.
So,
I think kind of for this episode, some of the biggest things you really need to think about is if you're finding yourself doing all the stuff, what are you avoiding? Why won't you outsource? And really start thinking about why are you inundated with stuff versus getting it off your plate. And, if it's the idea of you feel like you can't afford to outsource, trust me, you can barter and trade your ass off to get things off your plate. People will do barter and trade with you if you find the right people. So you can always get it off your plate. So I think if you're really looking at, how to free up your time. Oh, something we didn't talk about in this? If your time is not freed up because your clients are kicking your ass, and like you have so many clients, you don't have time to do anything else, you're not charging enough. You need to raise your damn prices to get some of these clients to go away. Probably because you got some pain in the ass clients you don't want to do business with either. But you also, need to slow down the volume of clients coming in so you can maintain, or you bring in more staff, but oftentimes it's just you're not charging enough. So I think with this episode, guys, you really need to, as the action step, go figure out what are the things, like here's how my favorite trick I've always done. I probably said this on a couple episodes. Write down every task you're doing in the business down to freaking taking out the trash, put it on the left side of a paper, write them all out, draw a line next to it, and in the column to the right, write this phrase at the top: would Steve Jobs do this task? And then go through each task and ask that question, and you'll realize a lot of the shit you got to get off your plate. So go ahead.
I have an interesting question that just popped in my head. When you look at that list, what percentage of your what percentage of your tasks that you're doing on a daily basis should be revenue generating?
Depends on the time of day you're working. If you're working during times you can be client facing, 100%. During the times when you cannot be client facing, 0%. So to explain that a little better, I truly believe that if your clients are around from 8 to 5, then you need to be doing revenue generating activities from 8 to 5. If your clients quit work at 5 and don't come back till 8 in the morning, that 5 till 8 in the morning, that's your time to do all the non-revenue generating activities. So if you look at that list and you really want to break it down, I'm pretty black and white on that. We do schedule some operational meetings and things in between to kind of break up the business development activity. But I would challenge that most times Kevin and I are all in on freaking revenue generating activities because we got some lofty damn goals. So, but yeah, most times, and as part of your overall list, if you're a solopreneur doing under 100,000, then 75 to 80% of your activities need to be revenue generating. 20% of your activities need to be delivery. And a lot of people will fucking just damn near wreck their cars when I said that. But under $100,000, you're scrambling, fighting, clawing, scratching. It's a lot of work to get over that first 100,000. So that's what I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's. I've never actually thought about till I put that question out there. It just popped in my head. It's like, oh, what is the ratio? I definitely agree that if you are a business owner, and I tell this to everyone now, especially people who are starting out, it's like you have to have the bulk of your time going to business development, and you can't get sucked into doing all the other stuff. Yes, you have to deliver what you're taking money for, and you have to do that in a timely manner, but you can't focus so much just on that your whole pipeline dries up, and all of a sudden you have nothing that's going to be coming in, and you're like, oh crap, how am I going to pay for the house this month? Or how do I pay my employees? You have to be getting the stuff done and being out prospecting.
For sure. Oh, great question. As always, guys, if you got any tips, tricks, any value out of this episode, please make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to podcast, and share this off with one friend that you think could find value for that. And for those of you who have sent us messages, emails, social posts, whatever, thank you for those. It means a lot. Appreciate you guys listening. Love you, mean it. See you. Bye.